Hey good people, how y'all doing? Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be giving you all my review on Love Marriage Huntsville Season 5 Episode 1. Let's go. I just want to start off this review by saying Dr. Francis, I love him. He is definitely the MVP of this episode. I feel like, listen, I would love to see him if I'm ever in the Huntsville area, or if he can do some type of telehealth. I will gladly take any advice that he's offering, because I find him to be very sound in the things that he says to these group of people, as well as just how he presents himself. He does not hold anything back. He lets you know exactly what he's feeling. And as a viewer, some of the things that he's saying to these couples completely makes sense to me. So clearly he knows what he's talking about. And the fact that he has his wife participating as well. I love when you can sit down with both a man and a woman who have been married for a very long time and are experts in relationships. So I'm all the way here for it. The episode opens up where we left off in July. Melody is hosting at this new theater there in Huntsville, and Martell brings over the kids so that they can see their mom in her element. Mel's mom takes the kids to go get something to drink, and it's just Martell and Melody sitting in the room together, and it's very awkward. They're kind of like smiling at each other, and Melody is really trying not to smile, if you guys noticed that, but they are smiling at each other, and that just lets us know, listen, these two people still love each other. She did not divorce Martell because she stopped loving him. She divorced him because he just could not stay faithful, and she could no longer trust him and live in that type of situation. But they have nothing to really say to each other. Martell says in his confessional he doesn't really want to start any drama with her. He just wants to support her and let the kids see everything that she's doing. And kudos to him for that, because I would hate to see something that's supposed to be a positive for her turn into a negative at her event, with them arguing, especially with their kids being there. In the next scene, we are at the couples retreat. Maurice and Kemi are the first to arrive. Maurice says in his confessional that he doesn't feel like they have a lot of work that needs to be done. He feels like he's good. Kemi says Jesus is still working on him, and we all know that to be true. He goes on to say that he just wants to help the other couples that are married in their circle to be the best that they could be. Maurice, sir, no, that's what Dr. Francis is there for. They don't need any of your help. Luis and Tiffany are the next couple to arrive, and Luis says in his confessional he's looking forward to going and just trying to get to know the Scotts a little better. He does go on to say that he is open to any of the information that the doctor has to offer. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, these people are in it for the wrong reasons. Why are y'all coming here worried about getting to know the Scotts? And Maurice, who do you think you're trying to help? You can't help anybody when you're the one who needs help in your relationship. The only people that I think are really taking it seriously is Tisha, of course, because she's the one who put this thing together, and Kemi, because she sees in her relationship that there are some things that need fixing. For Tiffany, her thing is, I just want Luis and I to have this baby. Luis wants more time with you, and clearly if you guys have another baby, one that he doesn't seem thrilled to have, that's just gonna cause even more of an issue and kind of separate you guys even the more. I don't understand, if this is something that Tisha put together, you should have been the first person that was there to not only be there with Dr. Francis and his wife to kind of get the rundown of how everything's going to go, but to also greet the other couples as they arrive. So Kemi calls her, and she lets Kemi know that they had some trouble with their nanny, as well as they're apparently at this point stuck in traffic. Kemi's not surprised. She does say that, Dr. Francis is waiting for you guys. And of course, Marsau doesn't know. So he's like, Dr. Francis, he's there? Kemi's like, yes. So he's kind of trying to say, well, I have other things to do and blah, 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 blah. And Kemi's like, well, so do I. And Tisha says that they're on their way and they will be there shortly. In the confessional, Marsau says that he thinks it would be hard as hell for Dr. Francis to make him a better husband. I don't know what's wrong with these guys. It's, here we go with the Scott brothers. We already know what to expect with them. They think that they're just God's gift to everybody. So, okay, Marsau. So back at the retreat, Dr. Francis starts to explain what it is that he does and what he's going to be doing while they're there. And Tiffany is on her phone. And I'm looking at her like, girl, that is so rude. This man is speaking and you have the nerve to be on your phone. So she says that she has to take a work call and excuses herself from the group. Dr. Francis is basically saying to Luis that, listen, your wife has competing interests. She can't say that she's all in to be here, but also all in still doing her work. Luis says, he understands and he basically can't speak for her, but he's there and he's in it. But Luis, what good is it for you just to be getting all the information and your wife be somewhere totally different? Not to mention, if you guys remember during the last episode, Tiffany did say that she's also going to be leaving the retreat early because she has to take care of some work. So it's not a good look, girl. I would love to hear what Dr. Francis is going to have to say about that. Luis goes upstairs and checks on Tiffany. He's trying to tell her some of the things that were being said downstairs, and all she's concerned about is whether or not Tisha and Marsau arrive. I guess in her mind, she doesn't think anything has started until they actually come. Whatever, girl. So now Marsau and Tisha have arrived, and sadly, they say in their confessional that Tisha lost one of her best friends. I feel for her. Losing anybody that you're close with is a difficult journey, especially when it's somebody who's young, when you're close in age with that person. It was really nice to see how Marsau was supportive and just consoling his wife. Now we are out with Martell and his mother. He is picking up the kids from school. He lets his mom know that he went out there to support Melody. And apparently Mama Holt is not happy with Melody. She says that Melody has said some really disparaging things about her on social media, and she's not too pleased about it. She tells Martell that she just doesn't want Mel to constantly mistreat people. Martell says in his confessional that he believes that his mom and Mel should sit down and have a conversation because Mel owes his mother an apology for some of the things that she said. My take on that is if your mom is okay with everything, then everything is everything, because his mother did say that if she comes around, she's still going to be cordial because that's her grandchildren's mother. For me personally, I know right now Martell's mom is taking a lot of ish on social media because of this particular episode. A lot of people feel like, she's created Martell to be the person that he is. Martell is a grown man who knows right from wrong. His mother always in the beginning episodes got into that butt as it relates to Martell and how he was treating his wife. I'm a mother and I'm a mother of all boys. So for me, of course, I'm going to be protective of my children. Nobody is going to make me stop loving them or stop supporting them or having bad things to say about them. That's just not going to happen. But at the same time, if they're doing stuff that they shouldn't be doing, of course I'm going to let them know. And I feel like that's what his mother has demonstrated throughout these seasons. So let's relax a little bit on her. Back at the retreat, Dr. Francis says he's not going to have any conversations with the Scotts about their tardiness because he realizes, they really just got some bad news. So I'm thinking he gonna say something to her, a little ways into the episode. As soon as they sit down, he gets right to telling her that basically it's inconsiderate of her not to prioritize her marriage and being there with her husband for the time that they have there. Luis defends his wife. He says that it's his job to protect her. Dr. Francis says, so you're going to be protecting her at the expense of the growth in your marriage, which I totally agree. Now, I'm confused by Luis because his number one complaint and issue that we've seen throughout the last season with Tiffany is the fact that she's always putting work over their marriage. And now you're sitting here protecting her when Dr. Francis calls her out on it. I just don't understand that. Tiffany said that she was waiting for the other couples to arrive so that they can all begin together. Tiffany, ma'am, you're not married to the other couples. You're married to Luis. And Luis was present and Dr. Francis was in the middle of saying something, and you decided it was an opportune time to take a call. It doesn't work that way. Tiffany goes on to say that work is a priority. So Dr. Francis says, well, you're just going to schedule your way out of your marriage. I feel like they were having a conversation before where she was like, do I need to schedule you in to have the type of time that you want to have with me? So again, this is not far off from what we've already heard from Luis and Tiffany. Kimmy chimes in and says that they have had discussions where time has really been a problem for them. You got to be able to divide your time between the two and prioritize which one is important to you. Kimmy says in her confessional she just doesn't understand how Luis and Tiffany can be so resistant to what everyone is saying, but have the nerve to try to give advice to everyone, which I totally agree. So Dr. Francis and his wife have planned a rope activity where each of the couples have to have one of their legs tied together. And the whole point of the activity is to work through the power struggle. The outside legs are supposed to represent their independence, and the inside legs that are tied together are supposed to represent them working together. Out of all of these couples, the couple who does the absolute best, surprisingly, is Tisha and Marsau. They are over there running, hopping, skipping, jumping, everything, okay? Whereas Kimmy and Maurice, they're the two that are struggling the most. Kimmy's complaining that Maurice is holding her too tight. Maurice is complaining that they're not going at a good pace. It's just a mess. And Tiffany just wants Luis to pick her up pretty much. So, of course, Dr. Francis is observing this whole situation, and he points out exactly what it is that we see. So we already know he's going to have a lot to say about that. In the next scene, we are at Stormy's house. Mel is coming over, and I gotta tell y'all, Stormy's house looks absolutely amazing. Oh my gosh, she has horses on her property. She has a zen room with beautiful plants. I'm a plant person, so I was like looking to see what type of plants and everything she has. But her house is absolutely gorgeous. And the fact that both of these women don't have any makeup on, they're in their natural, beautiful skin. I just love it. I really think that they look great. So they start discussing Martell coming to Mel's event. The Stormy's asking questions basically like, how did Mel's mom feel? When's the last time she spoke to Martell's mom? And Mel says that she hasn't spoken to Martell's mom since 2021. So in about a year, which is sad because if you've seen them in times past, they really had a very good relationship. It was almost as if Mel was another daughter to her. Mel goes on to say that she feels like his mom said some things that she should not have, and she doesn't want the same relationship that they had before because she realizes this is Martell's mom. It's not her mom. And she'll just love her from a distance. I can understand that. It is his mom. And at the end of the day, his mom is always going to go to bat for her son. But I also think that you have to take into consideration that this is also the grandmother to your children. And you guys are going to have to be around each other and things like that. So I hope that they can have some type of a decent relationship moving forward. You could tell just by how Stormy is listening to what Mel is saying that she really doesn't agree, but she's really trying to be a supportive friend. So we're back at the retreat, and Tisha and Marsau are talking. And of course, Marsau is like, you didn't tell me anything about Dr. Francis being here and this being like a whole couples therapy session. Kimmy and Maurice are in their room, and Kimmy is not happy with how they communicated with the rope exercise. Maurice says, well, we tried a couple of different ways. Your way did not help us move as fast. Then when I pulled you close and held you, things started to move more freely. But once you wanted to take the lead again, we were kind of out of sorts. Once again, it's Maurice's way or no way. Says in her confessional, this speaks volumes about some of the struggles that they have in their relationship. She goes on to tell Maurice that when she says that he was holding her too tight, it didn't mean to just let her go. It meant just to loosen up a little bit. At the couple's dinner, everybody is sharing their experience. Tiffany mentions the fact that she wants a baby, and she kind of gives Dr. Francis a rundown of her life and the fact that she was in foster care. Dr. Francis picks up on that and says that, well, the foster care might have something to do with your capacity to attach or to distance yourself from people so that you don't feel that sense of pain and loss again. She says that her adoptive parents were both on drugs, which I did not know. We met, they seemed like normal parents. I guess that's a prime example of you don't look like what you've been through. Dr. Francis asked her, well, were you married previously? And she's like, yes, she was married and divorced. So he's like, well, that's 3 losses right there. You had the loss of your biological parents, the loss of your adoptive parents due to their drug addiction, and then the loss of your last marriage. And it's not easy to get through a series of losses. Luis is like, well, that's just life. So Dr. Francis goes on to say to Tiffany, having a baby gives you the assurance that that person is always going to be there and that she's never going to be alone. And this causes her to become emotional because obviously he has struck a chord. So as Dr. Francis is saying all of this to her, Luis seems to reject this idea altogether. And to me, he just seems very defensive. In this moment, you can see that Tiffany is kind of letting her guard down a little bit, but he doesn't seem to be receptive at all to what he's saying. Marsau goes on to ask Tiffany, well, how would everything work for you, especially with your businesses, if you add a baby to the mix. And Tiffany says she functions very well in chaos. So he's like, well, okay, so you're going to bring this baby into a chaotic situation. He then goes on to ask Luis, does Luis think that he would get more or less of what most men want from their wives? And Luis is like, of course, having a baby, it's probably going to be less. Absolutely, sir. What do you mean, probably? Remember, these two have 16-year-old teenagers. If they can't find the time to be alone with each other with 16-year-old teenagers, how in the world are they going to find that time with a newborn baby? Dr. Francis then asks Luis a very interesting question. He says, how many philosophy books have you read? And Luis says that he's read a lot. Dr. Francis is like, well, I can tell. Luis says, well, at some point the student becomes the teacher. So they're looking like, so what, you're the teacher of your marriage? And he's agreeing that he is the teacher in his marriage. Tiffany is looking at him like he's lost his mind. She says in her confessional, what has he taught me? I feel like, I don't know, is it just me? Every chance this woman gets, she plays the mess out of Luis, but for whatever reason, he still comes back for more. Like, dude, put your foot down. Don't let her talk to you like that. She says, other than him always having something to say, that's about it. They teach each other. Dr. Francis goes on to say that Luis does not personalize a lot of things about himself because he doesn't want to have to deal with being vulnerable and deal with pain. Of course, Luis has a rebuttal, and his rebuttal is, listen, I've gone through things. Of course, I do feel things, and, I know how to handle pain. Kimmy interjects and says, well, Dr. Francis has been married for 46 years. He's an expert in his field. Basically, he knows what he's talking about. And she just doesn't feel like Luis or Tiffany are receptive to the advice that he's been giving them, nor does she feel like they're transparent. Dr. Francis piggybacks on what Kimmy is saying and says everything isn't what you make it out to be at home, and it's very easy for me to see that. Tiffany is sitting there like, well, I want to know what it is that you see. What is the disconnect? And he says, you guys are playing some type of game. So that pretty much ends the episode. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what you think about today's episode. I thought it was pretty good just having the doctor there. It wasn't all drama, which I'm so grateful for. But there were a lot of lessons to be learned in some of the things that he was saying. So I'm looking forward to next week's episode. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you in the next one. Until next time.